The truth is revealed. The Yu Menglong case has finally found the truth. But what really lies beneath this shocking revelation? And why did it take so long to come to light? The answers are darker, more twisted, and more heartbreaking than anyone ever imagined. Join Red Carpet Revealed as we uncover the secrets and explore every chilling detail, starting right now. For months, the world has lived in the shadow of unanswered questions. Whispers of conspiracy. Unbearable grief of a life stolen too soon. Yu Menglong's name has been etched into headlines and carried on the lips of fans across continents. Not just as a beloved star, but as the center of one of the most chilling mysteries in recent memory. When the news finally broke that the truth had at last been uncovered, shockwaves were immediate and unrelenting. But with the truth came more questions, more heartbreak, and revelations so dark that the line between justice and tragedy blurred beyond recognition. The announcement came during an afternoon press conference. The kind of event where every seat in the room was filled with reporters. Cameras trained on the podium. The air heavy with expectation. For weeks, rumors had hinted that a breakthrough was near. But no one could have anticipated the weight of what was about to be revealed. The lead investigator stepped forward. His expression grave. His words deliberate. After exhaustive investigation and countless hours of work, we can finally say that the truth in the Yu Menglong case has been found. The words echoed like a thunderclap. And in that moment, silence blanketed the room. Outside, the streets were lined with fans holding candles, photographs, and signs demanding justice. Some wept openly. Others stared at their phones as the live broadcast played, trying to process what they were hearing. The family of Yu Menglong sat front and center. Worn faces braced for what was to come, knowing that the truth they had long sought might not bring peace, but instead reopen wounds too deep to ever fully heal. The story of how the truth was uncovered begins not with a dramatic discovery, but with a single overlooked piece of evidence. Investigators, frustrated by months of dead ends and public criticism, returned to the very beginning, re-examining files they thought they had exhausted. And it was there, buried among discarded data and dismissed reports. They found a clue everyone else had missed, a digital fragment, corrupted and incomplete, enough to spark a new line of inquiry. From that point, the case shifted with breathtaking speed. The fragment led to a digital trail that had been carefully erased. A trail pointing not to strangers but to those with ties alarmingly close to Yu Menglong. Phone records, financial transactions, and surveillance footage, once dismissed as irrelevant, suddenly aligned into a damning pattern. Piece by piece, the deception unraveled, revealing a carefully staged web designed to mislead investigators at every turn. It became clear that the crime was not an impulsive act but a calculated betrayal, planned with chilling precision. As details emerged, the atmosphere grew heavy with dread. Investigators described how suspects had planted false evidence, manipulated witnesses, and even staged their own grief in front of cameras to divert suspicion. They had not only taken a life, they had woven a story to shield themselves from the consequences. What shocked investigators most was not only the brutality of the act, but the cold-blooded confidence with which the cover-up had been carried out. It was deception of the highest order, a performance so convincing that it fooled even the most experienced officers. When the arrests were finally made, the world watched in disbelief. Two individuals, both tied to the very industry Yu Menglong had given his life to, were led away in handcuffs. The trail was personal, intimate, and devastating. They had shared stages, interviews, and celebrations with him, presenting themselves as allies while secretly plotting against him. Fans reeled at the footage, struggling to reconcile the familiar faces with the horrifying truth. The internet exploded. Timelines flooded with disbelief, anger, and sorrow. Yet even as the arrests brought a sense of progress, the real bombshell came from within the interrogation rooms. One suspect broke, their confession spilling out in a torrent of chilling detail. They admitted to their role in the crime. But more than that, they described the planning, the motives, and the cruel satisfaction of deceiving the world. Investigators listened in stunned silence as the pieces finally fell into place. The confession was more than an admission of guilt, it was a glimpse into the darkest corners of human betrayal. What struck the public most was the motive. Not just greed, not just jealousy. A toxic blend of both, compounded by resentment that had simmered for years. The suspect admitted they could not stand to watch Yu Menglong soar higher. to see his light grow brighter while they remained in the shadows. What began as envy had twisted into obsession, culminating in a plan so heartless that it defied comprehension. And while the confession provided answers, it raised an even more painful question: how could someone so close, someone trusted, betray him so completely? News spread, vigils across the world turned into gatherings of both grief and fury. Fans lit candles but also raised their voices, demanding accountability, demanding that every accomplice be exposed. Betrayal felt personal, as though each person who had loved Yu Menglong had been stabbed by the same knife. Social media platforms crashed under the weight of trending hashtags, with millions joining in the chorus for justice. Confession was dissected in real time, its words replayed and analyzed, its impact reverberating across continents. For Yu Menglong's family, the truth brought no comfort. Instead, it deepened their sorrow. They had long suspected betrayal, but to hear it confirmed in such cold detail was unbearable. His mother collapsed in tears during the press conference. Father sat rigid, his jaw clenched in silent rage. Friends described the moment as surreal, as though they were watching a nightmare unfold all over again. Closure remained elusive, justice nearer, felt hollow. The entertainment industry recoiled in shock. Executives scrambled to distance themselves from the suspects, issuing statements of condemnation and sorrow. Colleagues spoke of their disbelief, some admitting they had sensed tension but never imagined it could erupt into violence. The facade of glamour cracked, revealing an undercurrent of rivalry, pressure, and resentment that had festered beneath the surface. For many, the case was not just a tragedy but a mirror reflecting the darker side of fame. And yet, even as the world reeled from the confession, investigators hinted that the truth might not be complete. There were references in the confession to others unnamed shadows lurking behind the suspects, to influences and pressures that remained concealed. The possibility that the betrayal ran deeper than anyone realized left the public unsettled, their grief entwined with fear. If two people could deceive the world so completely, might still be hiding in the shadows. As of this chilling saga draws to a close, the world stands at the edge of revelation. The truth has been uncovered, but not fully told. Confession has shaken fans to the core, but the final chapter remains unwritten. The stage is set for the trial of the century, for the confrontation between justice and betrayal, and for the final unmasking of every secret that has haunted the Yu Menglong case. The truth has been revealed, but the question that now lingers is whether the world is ready to face it. The confession that had first been whispered about was no longer rumor. It was real, chilling, and undeniable. When authorities released the full transcript of the suspect's words, the world froze in horror. Every line painted a portrait of betrayal so deliberate, so cruel, that it seemed more like the plot of a crime thriller than the reality of a beloved star's death. Yet this was no fiction. The unmasking of a truth that had been buried beneath layers of lies, and its impact shook every person who had ever uttered Yu Menglong's name. The confession began not with an admission of guilt but with a story. The suspect described the growing resentment. Envy had gnawed at them silently as Yu Menglong's fame blossomed. They spoke of moments when they smiled on camera while seething inside. They applauded his success publicly but plotted in private. At first, the motive was jealousy, pure and poisonous. Soon it became something darker. Money entered the equation, contracts, opportunities. The allure of fame that had always seemed just out of reach. In their eyes, Yu Menglong had become not just a rival but an obstacle. All that blocked their own ambitions. Removing him was not only an act of vengeance but, in their twisted logic, a path to their own rise. Described in detail how the plan was born. Surveillance of his routines. Careful study of his movements. Conversations with accomplices that disguised themselves as harmless chatter. They spoke of the night of the crime with a coldness that sent shivers through those listening. The way they had approached him. Trust had been weaponized against him. And the way the betrayal had unfolded step by step. The word was laced with an eerie calm, as though the act had long been rehearsed in their mind. The most devastating part of the confession was the admission that they had not acted alone. The second suspect, still clinging to silence at that time, was implicated directly. They were not merely a bystander but a participant, an accomplice who had erased digital evidence, crafted false alibis, even tampered with witnesses to ensure the crime would remain hidden. Together, The pair had woven a fabric of lies so intricate that it fooled not only investigators but also the millions of fans who had trusted them. When the transcript of these words was read in the courtroom, silence was deafening. Reporters' pens hovered above notepads. In the gallery wept openly. And even the judge paused as if to allow the enormity of the revelation to sink in. For many, the confession was worse than the crime itself. Not just the killing of Yu Menglong that haunted them, but the cruelty of the deception afterward. The performance of grief that had been nothing more than an act. The prosecution wasted no time in framing the confession as the cornerstone of their case. Piece by piece, they connected the suspect's words with forensic evidence, surveillance records, and testimony from those who had unknowingly been manipulated. The defense tried to argue coercion. The confession had been extracted under pressure. Their words fell flat. The details were too precise, too intimate. Aiming to be dismissed. The trial became a stage watched by the entire world. Cameras outside the courthouse captured lines of fans who camped overnight just to catch a glimpse of the proceedings. Inside, every word spoken was dissected online within minutes. Live streams buzzing with commentary and tears. The case was no longer just a legal battle, it was a global spectacle. A story of betrayal and justice unfolding in real time. Yu Menglong's family endured the trial with quiet dignity. His mother clutched his photograph during every session. His father stared unflinchingly at the accused. His siblings offered testimony that reduced even hardened reporters to tears. They spoke of his kindness, his generosity, his dreams for the future, dreams extinguished by the very people he had once trusted. Their presence was a constant reminder that behind the headlines and hashtags was a human life, irreplaceable and cherished. When it came, was decisive. Both suspects were found guilty on all charges. The judge's voice was steady as he delivered the sentence, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted, some in applause and sobs. Outside, fans chanted his name, holding candles that flickered like stars against the night. Justice had been served. But the victory felt bittersweet. For no matter the sentence, Yu Menglong was gone. And the world was left to wonder what might have been. In the aftermath, the case left scars that extended far beyond the courtroom. The entertainment industry reeled, forced to confront its culture of rivalry, pressure, and secrecy. Executives pledged reforms. Colleagues vowed to honor Yu Menglong's memory. And fans demanded greater accountability from those in power. Documentaries began production before the ink on the verdict was dry, eager to capture the rise and fall of a story that had gripped the globe. Yet even with the truth revealed, unease lingered. In the confession, there were hints, suggestions that others had known. Others had turned a blind eye. The possibility of deeper involvement haunted the public, raising fears that justice, though served, was not complete. Investigators insisted the case was closed. Whispers of conspiracies refused to die. For fans, the question was not only who had killed Yu Menglong, but how many had stood by and allowed it to happen. Still, amid the grief and anger, Yu Menglong's legacy endured. Tributes flooded the world. From murals painted on city walls to concerts held in his honor. His songs climbed the charts again. His performances replayed endlessly. His name immortalized in foundations and scholarships. Fans chose to remember him not as a victim but as a light that, though extinguished too soon, continued to shine. His story became more than a tragedy, it became a rallying cry for truth, resilience, and the refusal to let betrayal define the final chapter of a life. So the world moved forward, but never forgot. Truth had finally been revealed. But the scars remained. Into the collective memory of millions. The Yu Menglong case became not just a story of crime and punishment, but a mirror reflecting the fragility of trust, the dangers of envy, the resilience of those who seek justice even in the darkest of times. As candles continue to be lit in his memory and as fans whisper his name into the night, one truth remains unshakable: Yu Menglong's light cannot be extinguished by lies, betrayal, or violence. Killers may have confessed, but their words only cemented his immortality. And though the case has found its truth, the legacy of Yu Menglong is far from over. Truth has finally come to light. But it does not erase the scars left behind. Yu Menglong's death was not only the loss of a rising star but the shattering of trust. The unveiling of betrayal that cut deeper than anyone could have imagined. His killers may sit behind bars, but their confession serves as a reminder of how fragile truth can be. How easily lies can wear the mask of loyalty. Yet even in the darkness, Yu Menglong's light endures. His voice, his art, spirit live on in every fan who refuses to forget him. In every tribute that bears his name. Every candle that flickers in his memory. The betrayal may have written the final chapter of his life, but it is love, not lies, has written his legacy. The Yu Menglong case has found its truth. But the haunting question remains, if those closest to him could deceive so completely, how many more truths still lie hidden in the shadows? One thing is certain, his story will never fade. And his memory will forever demand that we look beyond the masks. That we never stop seeking the truth. Truth has been revealed. And the Yu Menglong case has finally reached its darkest depths. Justice has spoken. Betrayal has been unmasked. And yet the echoes of his loss continue to haunt us all. This story is not just about tragedy, it is about the resilience of memory. The unbreakable bond between a star and those who loved him. And the reminder that even in the face of lies, will always fight its way to the surface. Yu Menglong's legacy will endure. Not through the crime that ended his life, but through the millions of voices that continue to honor his light. His memory is a promise that no betrayal can ever erase. Thank you for joining Red Carpet Revealed in uncovering this journey to the truth. Stay with us. Share your thoughts. Let's continue to keep his story alive together. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the stories behind the stars.